Magic the Gathering is a card game and it's quite absurd. In one game, you're drawing all the cards you need, the next you're not drawing anything significant at all, which can end up with you screaming this is just, well, absurd. See, a deck in Magic, which is also called library, consists of a certain number of spells and lands. Generally, 40% of your deck will be lands and mana sources, and you're going to flirt with probability most of the time, hoping that you draw the cards you need at the right time. Drawing only lands mean that you will run out of spells to cast from your hand because lands are the only thing you draw. On the contrary, drawing only spells means that you don't draw any lands, which can spell disaster if you don't already have enough land on the board to cast your spells. These kinds of occurrences are called mana flood and mana screw respectively. This happens a lot of the time. When you experience this repeatedly, especially in a single play session, it can really grind your gears and even put you on tilt. This can lead you to ask why these kinds of things happen to you and if there's some kind of entity that actively prevents you from winning. Well, let me introduce you to a dude named Albert Camus. Albert Camus, an Algerian French philosopher, introduced something called the absurd. Now, I'm overly generalizing here, but according to him, the entire world is absurd. He further defines the absurd as the pursuit of a rational man to understand an irrational world. It's also important to note that Camus believes that the world has no objective meaning. However, for him, even if the world has no meaning, it is still worth living. In a friendly game of Magic where both players are similarly skilled and use the same decks, the main reason you will lose is because you didn't draw the right cards at the right time. It's luck, an entity that you don't have any control of. Questioning why you have bad luck and looking for the meaning behind it will present you with nothing but hypotheticals which ultimately end up without an answer or meaning. This produces the absurd that Camus defined, searching for meaning in a meaningless world. In his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus explains the 3 ways a person can tackle the absurd. I'm being careful here so the video doesn't get demonetized if ever, but those 3 ways are physical unsubscribe from life, philosophical unsubscribe from life, and revolt. These 3 offer quote-unquote solutions to this specific problem. Relating these terms to Magic the Gathering, physically unsubscribing from life would translate to not playing the game ever again, as in selling cards and never touch Magic again kind of quitting. This would take Magic out of the player's mind ever again and they would never have to deal with these kinds of absurdities. Philosophical unsubscribe from life, on the other hand, would be something along the lines of not playing the game anymore but still collecting cards and being more of a collector rather than a player. While this still involves Magic the Gathering, you are not a player and would never have to deal with mana flood and mana screw ever again. The third one is revolt. Oh, very French I know, but to revolt is to keep on living despite the world having no objective meaning. In the context of Magic the Gathering, this would mean to simply keep on playing. Win or lose doesn't matter, you just have to keep on playing. For Albert Camus, the best answer to the absurd out of all 3 is to revolt. As I mentioned, to revolt is to keep on playing and understand that it's a game that has its ups and downs. Bad draws? No worries, better draws will come. But you have to keep on playing as you will only experience these things if you continue moving forward. In an article entitled Avoiding the Pitfalls of Tilt, Brian DeMars has something to say about Magic the Gathering. First and foremost, Magic is a variance game that masquerades as a pure skill game. In actuality, Magic is a combination of both worlds, variance and skill, and it's always important to be realistic about how far skill can carry you in a given match. Another translation to this text is, get good doesn't really apply to Magic. Your skills won't matter if you don't have any cards in your hand. No cards in hand means that you don't have any options to deal with your opponent's threats, and that would spell disaster for the game. Now, there's nothing wrong if you want to rest for a bit and not play the game. I do this a lot because I'm mauled whenever these unlucky things happen to me. It can be quite annoying to accept that there will be games you lose just because you're unlucky. However, some people argue that this luck is one part of the game that they admire. While there is indeed charm to something that's chaotic and unpredictable, I can only see how this can be frustrating to professional players. Just imagine losing a couple $100 because you got mana flooded or mana screwed. It shouldn't be surprising to you guys that the concepts I've mentioned here regarding absurdism can be applied in real life. That's what it was made for in the first place. I'm just connecting the dots here and showing you guys that there are underlying pieces of philosophy in games we play if we look hard enough, even if it's a reach or not. For example, Magic the Gathering can also be a metaphor for life. The mana sources you have on the board are your energy, the cards in your hand are the options you have, casting these cards require mana, which is a direct translation to doing things like working, and how much energy you spend as you work throughout the day. I can also argue that your opponent represents the cosmos. The spells that they cast act as life's trials and tribulations. Turn after turn, you deal with their threats and also retaliate, showing a spirit of revolution. But there's one thing that you always do at the start of each turn in Magic. You untap all of your tapped permanents and draw. You refresh your body and keep going. Keep living. And you don't stop until you've drawn all of your cards in your library or have lost all of your life. Even if we both know that Magic the Gathering can be absurd at times.